I never expected a millionaire would give up everything for a rejected woman and her child. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air was thick, heavy with dread and uncertainty. My hands trembled as I received the news that shattered my world. The whispers in the hallway echoed in my mind. They said I was nothing, just a ghost from the past, a discarded piece of this monster I had once called home. And there, in the center of the chaos, stood him Tristan Blake, the billionaire with a heart of stone. Or so I thought. Tristan's eyes, they held a secret. An unspoken pain twisted in the depths of his gaze. He had it all. The charm, the wealth, the unwavering confidence. But beneath that polished exterior, I felt a crack. It pulsed with vulnerability, begging for attention. I stared, heart racing, caught in the storm of my heartbreak and his. Our paths had crossed often, like cosmic forces colliding, but never with this intensity. Never with this desperate need. I remembered our history, bittersweet and tight like a noose around my heart. The day we met felt like fire, igniting possibilities. But fate had other plans. I was the woman scorned, or so they said. A single mother struggling to make ends meet, living in the shadows of his extravagant world. No matter how hard I tried, I was always the second choice, the what if. The rejected one. Yet, somehow, he had found me again, like a moth drawn to a flickering flame. I could feel the tension in the air. A silence creeping in, invasive and sticky. There was something brewing, something electric. It sent chills up my spine. What was he planning? My heart raced, an echo of my fears reverberating within. I could sense the eyes of the crowd, watching us like hawks, whispering secrets, sharing judgment. Could I trust him? Could I trust this man who had always been untouchable, and then, just as quickly, it all unraveled? "I'll do it," he said, his voice low and steady, each word slicing through the silence like a blade. I felt a knot twist tighter in my chest. "I'll give it all up. For you and your child." The shock coursed through me. My thoughts scrambled. Was this a cruel joke? Did he truly mean it? Everything around us faded. The people, the noise, it all vanished, leaving just us. Panic rose like bile in my throat. This was madness. This wasn't how it worked. The billion-dollar life, the luxurious parties, the power he wielded, how could he throw it all away for someone like me? A flicker of hope battled with disbelief. Could he really walk away from it all? Could he give up everything for the pain-riddled past we had shared? That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind raced in circles, every scenario playing out 1,000 ways. What if he had ulterior motives? My heart ached, torn between yearning and fear. The soft light of dawn broke through the window, illuminating my resolve. But still, I stood at the precipice, trembling. As uncertainty clouded my mind, I saw his silhouette in the doorway, strong, yet uncertain. "Hey," he said softly, almost gently. I could feel my pulse quicken. "Are you ready?" But ready for what? That question lingered in the air, a heavy weight dragging me down. I turned away, searching for answers, but the truth felt elusive and cold. Worse, I could hear the whispers again, growing louder. Had I changed the course of my life forever? Or had I just tarnished my reality? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The morning light dripped into my bedroom like liquid gold, illuminating the stark contrasts of my life, the cozy chaos of toys scattered on the floor, the pallid remnants of yesterday's dinner still resting on the table, and the man who stood just outside my door. I watched Tristan through the haze of my thoughts, his handsome features shadowed by uncertainty. He was the billionaire who had made headlines, who navigated the world with charm and charisma. Yet, here he was, a figure of vulnerability in my small, messy life. Could you really do it? Leave it all behind? The question escaped my lips before I could stop it, and even as the words hung in the air, I felt a pull of desperation mixed with an unbridled curiosity. I searched his eyes, seeking truth amidst the tangled web of our past and present. Tristan's brow furrowed, the muscles of his jaw tensed. I would. For you and your child. His voice trembled slightly, a hint of the emotion hidden beneath his confident bravado. But I need to know you're on board with this. I can't be the only one chasing hope. Hope, I echoed, tasting the bitter irony of the word. It felt like a double-edged sword, something I longed for yet feared to embrace. I remembered my past of disappointment, the men who had promised far more than they could deliver. Did Tristan really mean it? Or was this the flash of a grand gesture, soon to be dimmed by reality? It's not just about you and me, Tristan. The words spilled out, freshly born from a place of fear. This is about my child. What if it doesn't work out? What if we do this, and we're not enough? Then we'll figure it out, he replied, his voice steady as he stepped closer. The intensity between us crackled, a palpable tension that threatened to explode with every heartbeat. Please, let me do this. There was a moment of silence, thick with expectation, each heartbeat amplifying the weight of the decision before us. Just then, the sharp trill of my phone broke through the moment, shattering the cocoon of the unknown surrounding us. I hesitated, glancing at the screen to see a familiar number. Karen, my best friend. Sighing, I answered, thankful for the distraction. Hey, I just heard. Karen's voice was breathless, filled with urgency. You okay? Are you with him? What is going on? Yeah, I'm here, I stammered, instinctively guarding my words. I stole a glance at Tristan, who stood with a mix of curiosity and concern. We're talking. Listen, someone from the neighborhood said they saw him at the gala last night talking about you. People are starting to put pieces together. They think he's leaving his whole life behind for you. The reality of Karen's voice sank in, heavy and oppressive. The judgment would come, sharper than daggers. Society had a way of branding people like me, a woman tied to a past filled with failures, a single mother chasing dreams in the shadows of privilege. They wouldn't understand or accept Tristan's choice if he took this leap. I can't, I stuttered, the room closing in around me. What if this goes wrong? What if this backlash destroys everything we have? Don't overthink it. You deserve happiness. And I believe in you both. Her voice took on a soothing tone, but I couldn't shake the throbbing doubt welling inside me. Just be honest with him. That's all that matters. I ended the call and looked back at Tristan, who now seemed to shimmer with hope. Was he truly willing to lose everything for me? The enormity of the situation pressed down on my shoulders like a weight I was unsure I could bear. I took a hesitant step toward him, yet my heart resisted with every ounce of doubt etched in my mind. What do we do? I whispered, voice wavering. How do we begin? Tristan reached out, brushing his fingers against my arm like a warm beacon. We just start. Together. His gaze turned fierce, steadying my trembling heart. But first, I have to show you something. Curiosity consumed me, and I followed him into the living room where he had set up a small table, littered with documents and colorful drawings my child had created. My heart melted as I saw the art, tiny representations of family, houses, all bursting with the innocent hope of childhood. I have a place for you, for us, he said with conviction, gesturing to a beautiful, crayon-colored sketch of a house. I want to make it real. Just as I felt the first fluttering tendrils of hope envelop me, the phone rang again, an ominous chime echoing in the silence. I stared, dread pooling in my stomach. This time, it was my landlord, and as I answered, the news hit like a thunderbolt: he was selling the building and I had 30 days to vacate. The ground seemed to shift beneath me, and I glanced at Tristan, whose expression turned stormy with realization. In that moment, the fragile threads of hope I had begun to weave now hung in the balance. Would we stand together in this? Or would the world's judgments tear us apart before we even began? As I searched his eyes for reassurance, a new wave of uncertainty crashed over me, leaving me gasping on the shore of turmoil, teetering on the edge of an abyss. The walls of my small apartment felt like they were closing in, each fading piece of paint echoing the chaos swirling in my mind. Tristan's hopeful gaze clashed with the dread that twisted my stomach, the landline still humming with unanswered questions. I could sense the mounting tension, the weight of uncertainty thickening the air around us. I had 30 days, the clock was ticking, and the stakes had never felt higher. "What do you want to do?" Tristan asked, his voice a low murmur, emanating both fierceness and vulnerability. I could see it in the way he held himself, a man teetering on the precipice of a choice that could change everything, not just for us, but for all the lives intertwined in our stories. "I don't know, Tristan. I really don't," I admitted, my voice cracking. "I've fought so hard to carve out a routine for me and my child after all the chaos of the last few years. You can't just throw it away." His expression shifted, understanding dawning in his eyes. "It's okay to be scared. But maybe this could be our chance to build something new together." There was an earnest desperation in his voice that made me want to believe him, yet my heart remained a battlefield of opposing feelings. If he truly meant it, if we could turn this spark of hope into something real, I found myself wishing I could cast aside my fears as easily as he seemed to do. But life had taught me well, hope felt like a fragile ornament hanging precariously over a chasm, just waiting to shatter at the slightest touch. "Can we even afford that?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, casting a sidelong glance at the paperwork laid out on the table. His weight in the world was enormous, but mine lay in the tremors of my past. "I can help. I have resources. The only thing missing is us." His words were like a warm hand on my back, pushing me forward yet still tethered to my uncertainty. The notion spoke to a deep longing within me, the yearning for a space to call our own, unbound from judgment or disapproval. Moments passed, the air thick with the intricacies of our silent exchange. My thoughts drifted to my child, sleeping peacefully in the next room. What kind of world did I want to create for them? What risks was I truly willing to take to give them happiness? "Tristan," I began slowly, "what if giving up my safe space means losing myself again? I can't let that happen. I cannot lose my child's trust." He took a deep breath, letting it fill the space between us before responding. "We'll take it slow. We won't make any rash decisions. I just want you to know I'm here for you, that we're a team." As his words melted my defenses, a gentle knock at the door interrupted us. My heart raced as I opened it to reveal a frail woman standing before me, clutching a plate of cookies wrapped in plastic wrap. "Hi, I'm Mrs. Jensen from down the hall," she said with a warm but timid smile. "I thought I'd bring you some cookies I made. I heard some news about the building. I just wanted you to know you're not alone." The unexpected kindness overwhelmed me. I choked back uncertainty, allowing her presence to settle into my chaotic thoughts, drawing me back into the moment. "Thank you so much. That's really sweet of you." Tristan stepped forward, a gentle smile on his lips. "You're in good hands. We all need a little support in times like these." Mrs. Jensen nodded sagely, her eyes twinkling with wisdom. "I've been in tough spots myself. Just remember, sometimes it takes a village to protect the things we hold dear." With that, she offered another warm smile and shuffled away, leaving the lingering scent of freshly baked cookies in her wake. That I turned back to Tristan, my heart swelling at the kindness springing from unexpected places. There was a flicker of warmth igniting in my chest, an ember of hope that hadn't burned bright in a long time. Perhaps the weight of change wouldn't crush me. Perhaps, together, we could forge a path worth walking. But just as the warmth blossomed, Tristan's phone buzzed with a frantic urgency, snatching our moment away. He glanced at the screen, color draining from his face. "I have to take this," he said, stepping away. An icy fear gripped me as I watched him pace, his brow furrowed in concentration. What if this was news of fallout from that gala? What if the world he had built was now at risk of collapse? Suddenly, the upbeat tone of his conversation shifted sharply, the energy in the room becoming heavy with unspoken tension. I strained to catch snippets of his conversation, my heart pounding in panic as I sensed their urgency. Phrases like legal team and public statement echoed back, heightening my anxiety. Is it bad?" I finally managed to blurt when he hung up, his face ashen. "It's complicated. There are things we need to consider," he replied, rubbing the back of his neck, clearly troubled. "There might be people who won't take kindly to this news to us." As the realization of the precariousness of our situation washed over me, a haunting fear whispered through my thoughts. What if the world truly was against us? What if I stepped into an abyss I could never escape? And just when I thought further darkness was impossible, the door swung open again. This time, a group of reporters flooded in, their cameras eager and flashing, armed with questions that had the potential to redefine our lives in an instant. "Ms. Collins, how do you respond to the allegations of opportunism?" one shouted amidst the chaos. This was the moment I had feared, the scrutiny that came with the stakes we were playing for. I clutched the doorframe, staring at Tristan in panic, our eyes locking in a desperate attempt to find solace amid the storm. Would we rise against the tide together, or would this be the moment that ripped us apart forever? As the chaos unfolded and the questions swarmed, I felt my grip slipping, teetering on the edge of what could be a devastating plunge into the depths of despair. I stood frozen in the doorway, the world around me blurring as the hive of reporters buzzed with fervor, their questions cutting through the air like blades. Each flash of the camera felt like a spotlight on our vulnerabilities, highlighting the precarious balance we were trying to maintain. I could sense Tristan's tension radiating off him, his jaw clenched as he turned to face the storm brewing in our lives. "Ms. Collins." The voice came again, sharp and demanding, drawing focus back onto me. Suddenly, I was the center of attention, the eyes of strangers drilling into my soul. "Have you been involved with Mr. McAllister professionally or personally? What are your plans moving forward?" The air felt thick, choking me in its tight embrace. As I stood there, the weight of their expectations merged with the reality of my fears. What would the world think of me, a single mother, once breaking free from obscurity, now entangled in the web of a wealthy man's life? Every instinct screamed at me to retreat, to shut the door, to protect what little I had left, but I was paralyzed, the chaos swirling around me too enticing and terrifying to ignore. I glanced at Tristan, whose eyes flickered with an emotion that seemed a potent mix of anger, concern, and determination. He stepped forward, his presence dominating, shielding me from the scrutiny. "Please, back off. This isn't the time," he said firmly, his voice cutting through their clamor with the strength I admired. "We don't owe you anything." But the reporters were relentless, pressing forward, eager for any chink in our armor. Another question landed: "Is it true that you're facing legal pressure regarding your recent investments, Mr. McAllister? How does Ms. Collins fit into that?" I could see the muscles in his jaw tighten, and something in his gaze shifted, the warmth replaced by a cold, controlled fury. My heart raced with an unsettling mixture of dread and an emerging sense of shared purpose. The path we had considered together was now ablaze with attention, dragging us into the unforgiving public eye. "Let us step back, Tristan," I finally said, my voice stronger than before. Every instinct told me reaching out for him now was vital, but uncertainty loomed over my heart like storm clouds. "We need to figure this out together." In that brief moment of clarity, I felt as though I had a compass again, pulling me towards action amidst the chaos. I turned to the mass of reporters, my voice steady. "I have nothing to say right now. We will address this on our terms when we're ready." The words hung in the air, their weight undeniable, earning a few incredulous looks but also whispers among the ranks. Some were surprised by my sudden intrusion into our shared narrative, others found it amusing, their cameras still clicking, eager to capture every nuance. Will Ms. Collins be a key witness in the legal proceedings regarding Mr. McAllister's business practices? Another voice called out, as the questions became sharper, more intruding, each one a reminder of what hung in the balance. That I turned my gaze towards Tristan, who was facing the horde with an unyielding resolve. He was more than a partner, he was my shelter in the storm, the one person who could help me navigate this treacherous landscape. Tristan, this isn't just about us anymore. We have to come clean about everything. He glanced at me, understanding the gravity of my words. Our lives were now intertwined in ways we had to confront both the shadows of our pasts and the radiant hope of our potential future. You're right, he said, voice low but fierce. But let us get through this together first. The reporters continued with their barrage of questions, but with the newfound unity between us, we stood strong, leaning against the chaos like a fortress made of flesh and blood. Slowly, I felt the tremors of fear transform into a sense of purpose, my heart resonating with the echo of Mrs. Jensen's kind gesture. We were not alone. As the waves of questions retreated for a moment, we found ourselves leaning closer. We need a plan, I whispered, urgency threading through my words. There's no room for hesitations now. Tristan nodded, the resolve in his eyes lighting something long dormant within me. We'll face them down, together. I'll fight for you and your child. This isn't just your battle, he declared softly but confidently, but just as I felt a flicker of hope threatening to catch fire, a sound cut through the air, a ping from Tristan's phone, vibrating with an urgency that sent chills racing down my spine. I glanced down at the screen, it was a message from his lawyer. Tristan, I barely managed to breathe, my heart dropping as I took in his change in demeanor. His eyes widened in horror, the color draining from his face. I need to go, he stammered, fear creeping into his tone. They've found something I didn't want you to know about. The world faded for a moment as his words sank in, sending my thoughts spiraling toward the worst possibilities. What secret could threaten everything we'd just begun to piece together? My breath caught in my throat as I processed the mounting dread that loomed before us. Wait. I grabbed his arm, desperation rising in me. Don't leave me. But as he turned, the reporters seized on the slightest weakness, closing in as they caught a whiff of internal disarray. The questions grew louder, more insistent, echoing my internal struggle. Would I lose him before we even had a chance to find our footing? Tristan hesitated, torn between duty and the depth of the connection we were forging. We were standing on the edge of something monumental, yet now faced with the threat of unraveling everything before it had truly begun. As he stepped away, the door swung shut behind him with a resounding thud, echoing in my chest. What shadow had followed him into our lives? And could I really navigate the tempest alone? The uncertainty loomed, casting a dark shadow that threatened to engulf the smallest ember of hope that had finally sparked to life. I stood in the hallway, the silence ringing in my ears like a cruel mockery of the chaos outside. The door closing behind Tristan felt like the abrupt conclusion to a symphony cut short, leaving only an aching void in its wake. I touched my fingers to my lips, a gesture of disbelief hanging heavily in the air, and felt the warmth fade from my cheeks. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. The connection we had forged, the moment of strength we shared just moments before, now it seemed so fragile, teetering on the edge of an abyss that threatened to swallow both of us whole. The reporters were still buzzing like bees, probing for any sign of vulnerability, and I knew they caught the weight of my uncertainty, the way it painted my features with confusion and dread. Ms. Collins. Any comment on Mr. McAllister's departure? In their eagerness, I saw a distasteful venom, a hunger for the scandal, lifeblood to their stories. My heart pounded as the walls seemed to close in, the fluorescent lights flickering above like the last gasps of hope. I turned my back on them, pressing my palm against the cool, wooden surface of the door. It was solid, unlike the tumult raging within me. What do I do now? I whispered to myself, intoxicated by the swirling thoughts and rising fears. I could already hear the whispers surrounding Tristan, a trail of rumors spiraling out of control. Their words, as sharp as knives, gnawed at my mind. Did we belong in a world that was ready to expose every crack in our lives? I stole a glance back at the chaotic mass outside, heart frozen as images of my past threatened to bleed into the present. I had fought so hard to be more than just a woman abandoned, more than a mother struggling against an unforgiving tide. But now, I was standing on the brink of being devoured whole. Suddenly, I felt a gentle touch on my shoulder, jolting me from my downward spiral. I turned to see Mrs. Jensen, her eyes brimming with understanding and warmth. A small, determined woman, she embodied resilience, and in that moment, her presence felt like a lifeline thrown into the stormy seas. "Come," she said softly, guiding me away from the door and towards the back of the building. "It's time we talked, dear." I didn't know what to make of the invitation but felt an irresistible tug of hope. Mrs. Jensen moved with a purpose that assured me whatever she was planning, it was born of love rather than fear. The press was still outside, but with each passing step, my apprehension began to wane ever so slightly. "Did you see him?" I asked, the words tumbling out before I could stop myself. He looked terrified, like something was pulling him away. Mrs. Jensen led me into a small, sunlit room at the back, distant from the chaos and furor. Closing the door behind us, she rested her hands on mine, her gaze penetrating but kind. "What you're both facing is heavy, child. But don't let the fear of the unknown erase what's beautiful about your journey." My throat tightened, the tears I had been holding back threatening to spill. He was my only source of strength, and now it feels like everything is unraveling. She shook her head gently. "What you have with him is rare. Do not underestimate that bond. And if he has secrets, it doesn't erase the truth of what you share." Her words enveloped me, wrapping around my heart like a warm embrace. "You're right. But how can I hold on to it? How can I face this storm alone?" "You aren't alone, Elise." Her voice was steady, reassuring. "I fought my own battles when I was your age. Often it took the darkest hour to reveal the brightest light. There are people who care, friends who will stand beside you." I inhaled deeply, savoring the safety of her words, but skepticism lingered like shadows waiting to pounce. "But will it be enough?" She smiled, an expression that filled the room with warmth. "Sometimes hope comes from the most unexpected places." Just then, as if the universe was listening, my phone buzzed insistently in my pocket. My heart raced as I pulled it out, seeing a message from an unknown number. Confusion twisted my stomach. With trembling fingers, I opened the text. "I have information about Tristan's situation. It's urgent. Meet me at our usual spot tonight." Fear and exhilaration coursed through me, battling for dominance. Who could this be? Did they know something about the shadows lurking in Tristan's life? "Is everything all right, dear?" Mrs. Jensen asked, noticing my sudden change in demeanor. I don't know. I need to go." Her expression sobered as I met her gaze. "Be careful, Elise. Follow your instincts, they're stronger than you know." As I stepped out of the sanctuary of the small room, my heart pounded with uncertainty. The questions loomed larger each passing second. What awaited me under the cover of night? Would I uncover truths that could bind us further or secrets that could shatter us entirely? I stepped back into the chaos of the reporters outside. The lights flickered like distant stars, but my focus remained sharp on the unknown path before me. I took a deep breath, centering myself, reminding myself of the flickering hope that Mrs. Jensen had rekindled, that perhaps even in the most tangled web, kindness could illuminate the shadows. But as I turned toward the door, I heard a voice call out, sharper than all the rest. "Miss Collins. What will you do if the truth about Mr. McAllister's past comes out?" My heart sank. Could I truly bear that weight? The path ahead was shrouded in uncertainty, and I suddenly felt the suffocating grip of fear tighten around my chest. Would the glittering facade I had fought to build come crashing down before I had a chance to salvage even a piece of it? Nothing was clear anymore, but one thing was certain, I wasn't backing down without a fight. As I stepped forward, ready to face the chaos ahead, I realized I was walking the line between hope and despair, and the evening promised that the truth would be revealed soon whether I was prepared or not. The evening air felt electric as I walked the short distance to our usual meeting spot, a hidden alcove off a quiet street where the world faded away and only the din of nature remained. I steeled myself against the encroaching dread, each step laden with the weight of uncertainty. How had I gotten here? My mind raced, flitting between memories of laughter shared with Tristan, stolen glances that ignited a flame in the chill of uncertainty, and the fear that now loomed like a specter, threatening to unravel everything we had built. That I arrived at the designated bench, a weathered piece of wood that had witnessed countless stories unfold, joyful, heart-wrenching, bittersweet. I leaned against the splintered surface, glancing warily down the path for any sign of my contact. The dim glow of streetlights flickered like restless spirits, illuminating the shadows that danced along the cobblestone. Minutes passed with my heart thudding loudly in the silence, a painful metronome counting down the seconds until a figure emerged from the darkness. A cloaked silhouette stepped into the pool of light, and as they drew closer, I felt an icy grip clutch my heart. Jack. There he stood, Tristan's childhood friend, his presence a blend of familiarity and apprehension. "Elise," he said, the shadows clinging to his features. "Thank you for coming." His voice was low, weighed down with a gravity that made my stomach churn. "What do you know? Is it about Tristan?" He hesitated, glancing around as if fearing eavesdropping spirits. "You need to understand, Tristan is facing something that could destroy him. Something he hasn't told you." The realization struck like a thunderbolt, igniting fear and anger. Why would he keep this from me? I demanded, desperation edging my tone. How could he? Jack shifted uneasily, his gaze falling to the ground. "It's not that simple. You don't understand the depths of his past. He has been running from it for a long time and it's finally caught up to him. I fought against the rising tide of emotions, betrayal, confusion, but amidst that turmoil lay a flicker of concern for him. Tell me everything," I urged, as if summoning the strength needed to absorb the truth. "Tristan's family, his father, they're not what they seem. There are dealings, dangerous ones that he has tried to distance himself from. But they've threatened to expose him, to pull you both into their dark whims if he doesn't comply." The world tilted on its axis, betrayal mingled with my burgeoning fear. Tristan had hidden this terrible part of his life to protect me, unknowing that in doing so, he'd built an insurmountable wall between us. What am I supposed to do with this information? How do I save him? Jack looked me in the eye, and in that moment, I saw not just Tristan's friend, but a man who carried scars too deep for even time to heal. "You can help him, but you must tread carefully. Your love is a weapon against the darkness, a light that can pierce through the lies. But he has to trust you, you have to be the one to break down the walls." The weight of his words pressed heavily on my chest. "And if he doesn't trust me? What if he shuts me out?" "That's a risk we all face," Jack said solemnly. "But I believe there's still a part of him that knows he needs your strength." We stood in silent acknowledgement, the heaviness of our conversation hanging in the air like the humid warmth before a storm. Amid the tumult of my swirling thoughts, I heard the soft rustle of leaves in the wind, as if nature itself was urging me to fight for what mattered most. "You know where he is, don't you?" I whispered, the urgency in my voice propelling my heart forward. "Yes. He's at his father's estate, trying to negotiate. But it's a trap. He's walking straight into danger." Every muscle in my body went taut. "We have to go for him. Now." Jack's eyes widened, and for a second, I thought I saw fear flicker across his face, the notion of confronting the darkness itself. "Elise, no." I interjected, my voice rising. "I want to let him face this alone. I can't." Without waiting for further protest, I turned on my heel and sprinted away from our meeting place, the adrenaline surging through my veins like wildfire. Each step was a declaration of love, of defiance, of a woman unwilling to let the shadows define her or the man she cared for. As I reached for my phone to call Tristan, a sudden thought slashed through the cacophony in my mind. What if he was walking headlong into danger because of something I had done? Had my own insecurities and doubts, my fears of being unworthy of his love led me to this moment? The ringing echoed insistently, each note a reminder of the urgency blurring my vision. When Tristan finally picked up, his voice was strained, tight. I could feel the tension emanating even through the phone. Elise. Tristan, please listen. You need to get out of there. It's a trap. Each word tore at my heart, the fear swelling in my throat as I waited for his response. What do you mean? How do you just trust me? I have to see you. Please, I need to know you're safe. The line went silent, and I could feel the pounding of my heart drown out everything else. Then came the sound of heavy breathing, a long pause that stretched into a chasm of uncertainty. Elise, I can't. Before his words could sink in, before the fear could consume me whole, I caught the flutter of movement to my right. From the shadows stepped another figure, an imposing presence that wielded a darkness I recognized all too well. As our eyes met, a paling chill ran down my spine, filling me with a certainty that this moment, the very one I had dreaded, had finally come. And then everything went black. When the darkness enveloped me, time ceased to exist. One moment, I had been pleading for Tristan's safety, and the next, I was swallowed by an unforgiving void, isolated from everything I knew. A sharp jolt of awareness surged through my veins when consciousness flickered back on, but it brought with it a disorienting heaviness that I blinked against the dim light, struggling to discern my surroundings. Concrete beneath me, metal on all sides. I was in a car, my heart racing in a frantic rhythm. Panic gripped me, a visceral reaction to the uncertainty of where I was and what had happened. I tried to move, but the constraints of my seatbelt held me, as if staging a rebellion against my will. Wake up, sweetheart. We need to talk. The voice came from the front seat, smooth and chilling, like ice sliding down a mountain. Richard, Tristan's father. His image burned in my mind as if it were seared there by fire. I turned my head as far as my restraints would allow, and meeting those dark, calculating eyes sent shivers trickling down my spine. What do you want? I found my voice, shaky yet defiant. He chuckled softly, the sound echoing maliciously in the confined space. You're more valuable than you think. Tristan needs to realize where his loyalties lie. A little persuasion on my part should make him see the truth. Leave him out of this. I shouted, the fear igniting a fierce protectiveness within me. You won't win if it means hurting him. Oh, but my dear, I'm not here to hurt anyone. I'm merely reminding Tristan of his obligations. His eyes gleamed, a predator sizing up his prey. Love is a weakness. You, being the lovely distraction you are, can't help but make it worse. It's only a matter of time before he understands. My heart sank, the weight of his words settling deep within me. You don't know a thing about love. It isn't a weakness, it's what gives us the strength to fight. Interesting perspective. He peered at me through the rearview mirror, his expression unreadable yet unsettling. But it's naive. Love binds you, makes you vulnerable. His love for you is what I intend to exploit. You're more deeply entwined in this game than you realize. A heavy silence wrapped around us. I needed to buy time. What are you planning to do? The car turned sharply, and I braced myself against the sudden force. My son will see reason, he said, his voice a low rumble, full of lethal calm. And with you at my side, he will understand that defying me means losing everything. His sinister smile sent cold tendrils of fear creeping up my spine. My thoughts raced. If Tristan was still unaware of my situation, what would happen when he discovered I had been taken? Would he feel betrayed for not having known? Would he fight for me, or would the darkness consume him entirely? Get out, I urged, my voice trembling but resolute. You think you can break him, but you're wrong. He will fight for me, for us. Hope is a dangerous thing, Richard replied. But I can assure you, Elise, hope alone will not save you. You must understand this is a game, and I will always have the upper hand. In that moment of despair, I reached for the flicker of light in my heart, the love I had for Tristan. It was that bond that could break through the suffocating darkness promised by Richard. I had to believe that we could defy the odds, navigate the treacheries laid before us, and tear down the walls of manipulation he had constructed. Suddenly, the car jolted as it skidded to a halt. Alarm bells rang in my head. "What is happening?" I demanded, my voice rising with the swell of panic. "Enough games, my dear. Time to meet your beloved," Richard said, opening the door with an unsettling calmness. The rush of cool night air flooded in, and just as I was about to step out, I heard another voice, not Richard's, but familiar. "Elise, no." Tristan's frantic call slashed through the tension, freezing the very air around me. My heart swelled with a mix of fear and hope as I turned to see him standing there, disheveled and wild-eyed, like a storm pushing against the calm facade of Richard's world. "You shouldn't have come here," Richard warned, his voice turning menacing, eyes glinting dangerously in the dark. "You want to save her? Then you'd better consider what you're willing to sacrifice." In that fleeting moment, their eyes locked, and I saw the unspoken words hanging between them, the weight of choices yet to be made. What sacrifice would Tristan make for love? And how far would I go to save him from this darkness threatening to envelop us both? The air was thick with tension, and as I braced myself for the confrontation ahead, my heart trembled with a terrifying certainty our fates hung by a thread, dangling precariously over the precipice of a world soaked in ambition and greed. The truth, I feared, was more horrifying than any of us could imagine. The intensity of that moment enveloped me, a tempest of emotions swirling around us as I tried to gauge Tristan's resolve. His face was a canvas painted with fear and determination, bracing against Richard's icy grip on our fate. The echo of his desperate call still hung between us like a lifeline, an anchor in this chaotic storm. "Tristan, you shouldn't," I began, but Richard's imposing figure seemed to absorb my words. He stepped back, dismissing me with a gesture that sent my pulse racing with dread. "Don't speak unless spoken to, Elise," he hissed. "You don't understand the stakes here." "Then make me understand." I fought against my constraints, my voice a mixture of anger and desperation. "What are you trying to prove? What is the point of all this?" Richard loomed closer, his eyes narrowing as if he were scrutinizing a mere pawn on a chessboard. "Control. It's about control, dear. Love is simply the illusion of choice, one that blurs the lines of loyalty and duty." Tristan stepped forward, defiantly crossing the threshold Richard had maintained between us. "Let her go, Richard. You're ruining everything." "Am I, or am I simply unveiling the truth?" Richard's lips curled into a mocking smile, an unsettling performance meant to unsettle. "Your precious love can be so easily manipulated. All it takes is the right nudge." Tristan's resolve wavered slightly, and in that instant, I saw the cracks beginning to form. "Don't listen to him," I urged, the panic seeping into my words. "Please, you're stronger than he is. We can fight this together. You have a choice to make, Tristan," Richard's voice dripped with malice. "You can have your beautiful little fantasy wrapped in love and happiness, or embrace reality, where you must take a stand against the truth of your obligations." "What obligations?" Tristan's voice rose, filled with strained disbelief. "I'm not some puppet on your strings, and neither is Elise. Isn't that cute?" Richard sneered, taking a step back to revel in the unfolding drama. "You see, this isn't just about you anymore. It's about a legacy, family, and the game that you've chosen to reject. You want to defy me? Then you must be prepared for the consequences." I glanced at Tristan, our eyes riveted to one another. There was a desperate spark igniting in his gaze, a glimmer that told me he wasn't backing down. But underneath that shimmer were layers of uncertainty, fear, and perhaps an inkling of doubt that Richard had planted deftly. "Whatever it is you think you're doing," I whispered, trying to plead with him through my eyes, "you have to trust." Suddenly, Richard's phone vibrated in his pocket, interrupting the fragile moment that had cocooned us. His face turned serious, the mask of the charming adversary slipping momentarily. He cast a sidelong glance at me before answering with a curt nod as he stepped aside to answer the call. "Just a moment," he said, signaling Tristan to wait. "And you, my dear Elise, don't try anything foolish." As the tension in the air hung palpably, Tristan stepped toward me, inching closer, the emotion bubbling just beneath his surface. "I'll find a way to get you out of this, Elise. I promise." And then it hit me, the unshakable truth that tied our fates together. Richard was not the only player in this game, there were forces at play that we couldn't fully comprehend. An unexpected chill snaked down my spine. "Tristan, listen," I whispered urgently, keeping my voice low to prevent Richard from overhearing. "There's something you need to know. I think there's more to this than just us. I don't know how to explain it yet," but before I could finish, Richard returned, a sinister smile again plastered across his face. "Interesting that you think you can talk in secret, Elise. Didn't I tell you this is a game? For you both." Tristan's expression darkened, and for a fleeting moment, I could see the gears turning in his mind. "What did you do?" Richard's laughter sent shivers through my heart. "You'll find out soon enough." With a final, sweeping glance toward me, Richard turned and walked toward his car, leaving us tangled in a web of undefined apprehension and sudden fear. Just then, the soft thrum of the engine punctuated the ominous silence. "What did he mean?" Tristan asked, his brows knitting together in concern. "What else is he hiding?" "I don't know," I admitted, heart racing. "But something terrible is coming, I can feel it." No. This isn't how it ends." His jaw clenched, determination radiating from him, yet his vulnerability pierced my heart. "I won't let him take you away from me." Tension crackled like live wire between us, and though I yearned to comfort him, the oppressive darkness of Richard's game suffocated our hopes. Just as the car's headlights blinked out, swallowing us in darkness, an ear-splitting crash echoed through the empty street, causing us to jump. The chaos momentarily broke the tension, Richard's voice rose above the commotion. "Now that's more like it," he shouted, laughter laced with menace. "What's happening?" Tristan's voice wavered, confusion marring his features, and then, the world around us erupted, blinding lights flashed, and shadows danced grotesquely as a sudden mixture of chaos filled the air. Before I could react, a horn blared nearby, and the ground shook as something pivotal began to unravel. In that moment, I understood, it was no longer just us fighting against Richard, it was a reckoning, an upheaval that would draw us into a maelstrom of unforeseen consequences. And as the silhouette of Richard faded further into the shroud of darkness, a chilling revelation dawned on me: someone was coming for him, and the fallout was about to drag all of us down with it. Amidst the chaos sparked by the blinding lights and distant booms, everything felt surreal. The world morphed, solid objects seeming to melt into shadowy figures, swallowed by uncertainty. I grabbed Tristan, pulling him closer, both of us overwhelmed by the cacophony of sirens that sliced through the air like jagged glass. "Our lives are anchored to a storm we can't fully comprehend," I murmured, still shaking from the chaos. "It's not just Richard anymore." Tristan's grip tightened on my shoulders, his eyes darting through the shadows, seeking meaning in this unexpected upheaval. "We need to get out of here. Now." The urgency in his voice propelled us into motion, yet our feet felt heavy, bound by the weight of impending doom. As we hurried down the street, fear clawed at my insides, the fear of what had been unleashed, fear for Tristan, and fear for myself and the fragile bond we struggled to hold on to. The distant crowd had begun to gather, their murmurs crashing against our frantic breaths. Flashes of light illuminated panicked faces, and the flickering of hope morphed into a maelstrom of uncertainty. "Where do we go?" I asked, glancing over my shoulder as if Richard's looming presence still shadowed our escape. "Anywhere but here. I can't let him have control of this moment," Tristan said, pulling me into a side alley, the cool air a slight comfort amidst the rising sense of chaos. Yet, the moment we stepped into the darkened passage, the alley began to feel like a trap. I pressed my back against the brick wall, feeling the rough surface against my skin, and caught my breath, my thoughts spiraling. Tristan, we need to talk about everything. Richard is right, there's so much more we don't understand. I think he touched my face gently, silencing my words with an intensity that stole my breath. Elise, I would follow you into any darkness. Just tell me what you need me to do, and I'll do it. But we can't stay paralyzed by fear. His unwavering faith ignited an ember of hope within me, yet the weight of truth hung dampened like the air after a downpour. What if the truth is more dangerous? What if Richard knows things that could destroy us? I don't want to drag you into this further. As I spoke those words, the shadows from the alley flickered at the corner of my vision. Someone was there, discreet yet watchful. Whether friend or foe, I couldn't tell. It doesn't matter, he replied, voice strong yet laced with desperation. I can't lose you, Elise. In that moment, the shadows shifted, and a familiar face stepped into the light, a woman with striking red hair and fierce eyes filled with urgency. It took me a moment to recognize her, the one person who had always been a grounding force in my life amidst the turmoil, Clara, a close friend from my past. Elise! She yelled, darting toward us, full of energy that felt almost otherworldly amidst our heavy atmosphere. You two need to get out of here now. Richard isn't done with you yet. Clara. I gasped, the disbelief coursing through me. How did you find us? I have connections, people who always cared, she said quickly, urgency bubbling in her words. But we don't have time. He's been looking for you both, and he won't stop. Tristan's expression darkened. How do you know this? What has he done? There are things you don't understand, Tristan. There are alliances that have been formed, shadows within shadows. She grabbed my hand, pulling me along, abandoning hope for a quiet moment. We need to move. There's a safe house just a few blocks away. But I hesitated, the instinct to hold on to whatever was left of my life contorting my thoughts. No time for questions. Clara insisted. This is bigger than just you two. Richard has played a dangerous game, and you're more entangled in it than you know. We raced down the alley, my mind a whirlwind of dread and confusion. What was Clara alluding to? Were there hidden truths that Richard had woven into our lives unbeknownst to us? As we emerged into the busy street, the sounds of chaos encroached upon us once more. People screamed and panicked as the night descended into pandemonium. Clara's determination guided us through the haze of confusion, her presence a beacon within the turmoil. Just as we reached the safe house, a brightly lit building, amid the shadows something glinted in the corner of my eye. My heart plummeted as I recognized Richard's vehicle approaching, headlights piercing into the calm that Clara had fought so hard to maintain. Go! Clara urged, her voice shattering the moment, and then, tragedy struck. The screeching of tires echoed as Richard's car came to a halt, shadowed figures spilling out into the street like serpents from the depths of despair. Run! Tristan shouted, throwing me forward even as he turned to face the oncoming threat. The resolve on his face cut through my fear, illuminating the path ahead, but even as I stumbled forward, the dark comet of reality struck with chilling clarity. Richard was not merely a man looking for control. He had wielded a power I had only begun to grasp, and now we were entangled in a game far larger than our love, a game where the stakes were life and death. And just before the door to the safe house slammed shut behind me, I turned back for one last look, my heart descending into a chasm of despair. I watched as Richard's figure emerged from the shadows, a cruel smile streaked across his face, anticipation painting his every movement. Don't worry, Elise, he called out, his voice laced with dark promises. We've only just begun. The world around me blurred as the door clicked shut, sealing my fate on the other side, a stark boundary between the life I knew and the impending chaos ahead. As I stood in the dimly lit confines of the safe house, the weight of everything that had transpired pressed down on my chest like a boulder. The tremors of fear and uncertainty buzzed through me, creating an unbearable tension. Clara's presence was reassuring, but the fact that we were now cornered only fueled my anxiety about what lay ahead. Tristan was out there, facing down Richard and whatever malevolence lurked in the shadows, and the realization cut deep. Could he fend off the force that had so easily captivated his life? As the silence stretched between us, I felt the walls closing in, a prison of my own making, filled with whispers of doubt. "Clara, what do we do?" My voice trembled, laced with desperation. "We'll find a way, Elise. But you need to trust me," she replied, her tone unwavering. "I have contacts who can help, information that could turn this around." "But what if it's not enough?" I bit my lip, emotions flaring within me. What could someone like me, with only hope and vulnerability, do against the wrath of a man like Richard? He hadn't just threatened us, he had dismantled the very foundation of my world, exposing me to the rawness of my own insecurities. Just then, a sudden noise at the door jerked my attention. My heart raced, anticipation intertwining with dread. Clara glanced nervously at me, and I could see that she shared my uncertainty. I stepped closer to the door, trying to peer through the small window when, after what felt like an eternity, it burst open. Tristan stood in the doorway, disheveled and wild-eyed, the very picture of fierce determination, a stark contrast to my vision of vulnerability. He stumbled in, breathless and bruised but alive. My body surged with relief, but it was quickly shadowed by the apprehension lurking behind his weary smile. "Elise," he said, his voice low but enveloped me in warmth. "Tristan, I didn't finish my thought before closing the distance between us. I needed to feel the solidity of his presence, to assure myself that he was indeed here. We need to get out of here," he said, urgency edging his voice. "Richard's men are closing in." "What?" My heart sank. "Did he follow you?" He nodded, glancing back towards the door. "But I won't let them take you. I promise." With that, adrenaline surged through me, sparking determination. "Then let us move." Clara stepped forward. "Do you have a plan, Tristan?" He nodded, pulling out a small, folded piece of paper from his pocket, the edges worn and creased. "Clara's contacts have a safe route. But we need to leave now." There was an intensity about him, a conviction that I clung to desperately. Yet, with every passing second, shadows of doubt loomed larger, clawing at the edges of my mind. "What if we get caught, Tristan? What if they stop?" he said firmly and held my gaze, his eyes deep pools of reassurance. "We've faced worse things than this. At the very least, we'll face them together. No more hiding." His words broke through the silence, stripping my fears of their power. We were in this together, bound not just by love but by a drive to escape the shadows and redefine our futures. As we moved towards the back exit, I thought about the weight of our decisions, the choices that had led us here. I took a deep breath, my heart steadying. Yes, the danger was ever present, but perhaps this was the moment we would fight back. Each step towards freedom was a step towards reclaiming my narrative. It was time to face Richard, to confront the monster that had sought to devour everything we held dear. We hurried through the dimly lit corridor of the safe house, Clara leading us, her determination mingling with ours. As we stepped outside, a chill ran through the air, but it was invigorating, awakening within me a strength I didn't know I had the courage to reclaim love, family and life itself, and then we heard it, a distant thunder, echoing in the stillness. Footsteps, many of them, closing in around us. I chanced to glance toward Tristan, who held his head high, an unwavering anchor against the chaos swirling around us. "Ready?" he asked. An almost playful challenge in his audible whisper. I smiled, a small flicker of warmth igniting in my chest. More than ever. At that moment, I knew that no matter what awaited us, I was prepared to face it all, to rise from the ashes and light up the dark corners he had almost snuffed out. In a world tangled with shadows, our hope, a defiance to the chaos, would ignite a flame that could light our way. As we turned to dash into the relative safety of the street, a distrustful laugh echoed from behind us. Richard stood there, cloaked in darkness, his shadow receiving more light than it was due. "This isn't over," he taunted, and with a calculated menace, he advanced. "Keep moving," Tristan urged, strands of determination woven through every word. But as Richard approached, something shifted within me, igniting a primal urge to confront the root of my fears. I turned on my heels, staring at him defiantly. "You don't control us." His smile faltered for a heartbeat before he regained composure, as if a mask had slipped. "You foolish girl," he said, amusement dripping from his words. "Control is what gives power, love is a fleeting moment." "Then let us see how fleeting it is," I spat back, feeling fire ignite my core. "Love isn't a weakness, it's what will destroy you." The truth rushed through me like a rush of electric energy. I wouldn't back down, I wouldn't let Richard dictate my fate any longer. With every word uttered, I could feel Tristan's hand tighten around mine, a physical embodiment of our bond, a signal that we truly were in this together. In this duel between light and darkness, our love wouldn't falter, it would rise above the ashes of Richard's machinations, an eternal flame illuminating the path forward. With newfound strength, we surged forward, breaking through the shadows that had once threatened to consume us. No longer hidden, we would be the architects of our fate, the champions of our own story. And as we stepped into the night, my heart swelled with hope, unwavering and fierce. In the end, love would forge a path, breaking the chains that tried to hold us captive. Together, we would not only confront Richard, but we would also reclaim our lives, and perhaps, shine even brighter than before.